Welcome back, bass modders. It's Berocca time once again. If you watched the introduction video for this series, you would have seen me slide this 6-inch ruler in behind the tailpiece on the bridge. I'm really not sure why that's happening, and in this video I'm going to try and get to the bottom of it. So I'm really not sure what's going on here. It might even be as simple as the screw. Oh, that's really, well, that screw's really loose for some reason. And that screw's stripped. So is that one. And so is that one. Okay, so, well, it's still sitting up off the body a little bit. So I'm going to take it off. I need to fill 3 of these holes. At least I can torque these screws up quite firmly. Let me check the front ones. No, that's stripped. Oh, that one's tight. So if you're going to use a drill driver on your guitar, make sure you set the clutch to number 1. For most screws, I think with neck attachment screws you could probably crank that to 2 or 3, maybe even 4. But typically you're returning screws to the guitar and there's already holes, threaded holes to receive those screws, so there's no real reason to crank the clutch any more than its lowest setting. And even then you should get into the habit of getting off the trigger just as the head is starting to bottom out, because stripped out screws on guitars are so common, and they're just unnecessary and they just cause extra work for you. And in this case it's kind of bent the bridge. Not sure if the camera's picking that up, but the bottom of the bridge is not flat at all. Actually, it's quite curved. That's probably happened just from string tension because these screws are all stripped and the strings have just pulled that up. It's, well, I haven't seen it on a cast bridge like this before, but it does sometimes happen on the old Fender style bent steel bridges. I might be able to straighten that out. While I'm here, I'll also check how level the body is in this area. Sometimes there's a bit of a drop off from sanding or whatever. And I'm also going to do a better job of this earth connection under the bridge. I'll show you how I do that. But first I'm going to fill 4 of these holes with my old quick and cheerful toothpicks and super glue method. I've already shown this, so I won't bother explaining it again. I'll just get on with it. Okay, so I've left one unfilled, partly because it doesn't need filling, this one, it still seems to be fine, but also it will allow me to put the bridge back in exactly the same place, and that way I can drill pilot holes for all of these. Well, the body's not perfectly flat here, but it's pretty good, and it's a heck of a lot better than the bottom of the bridge, which I'll have to try and straighten, I think. For the moment though, I want to get a better earth connection here. This is pretty typical, you just have a little bent piece of wire. I prefer to put some copper tape in there and get a good electrical connection with the bottom of the bridge. I'll show you how I do that. Just going to tin this earth wire, that way it's not going to fray when you push it through, and it'll come out cleanly onto that piece of copper. And then it's just a matter of pushing a little pool of solder in there. And making sure the solder's not proud of the top. That's fine. Now when I put the tailpiece back on, I'll have a really nice electrical connection between the earth wire and the bridge. Okay, so now I'm going to try and get this a little bit straighter, this bottom plate. First thing I'm going to do is mask up the jaws of this vise, otherwise they'll mark the chrome plating. Yeah, that's much flatter. Alright, so that's now sitting really nice and flat on the body. But, well, I know I said I was going to just set it all up before I do any mods. But, well, I've changed my mind. I think I'm going to make a new tailpiece for the base. This one is okay, and it does have a little bit of mass, but there's a couple of reasons I'm thinking about making a new one. The first one is that all of these saddles have an intonation screw on the same side of each string. And what that does, the string will tend to pull the saddle towards the intonation screw. And if you look at most sort of Fender style bridges, they'll actually have 2 screws on one side of the string and 2, or in this case 3 screws on the other side of the string. That way, when the strings are up to tension, they're actually drawing the saddles and jamming them all together. So that's a nice thing to have. But the main reason I want to make another tailpiece is because I want to cut slots so the strings will be quick release. If I'm going to go to the trouble of refinishing and polishing this body out, I don't want to be scratching the lacquer up behind the bridge every time I change strings, and it's just more convenient to pull the strings on and off, whether you're changing them or even just cleaning them. So I think what you'll see next is a montage of brass cutting and drilling. Well, my bespoke slotted tailpiece is almost ready to sand and polish, but you'll never believe it, the bottom of this brass extrusion is actually not completely flat. It's a lot flatter than the other thing was, but this will be easy to bend. I'll show you. Alright, I'll just bend it a little further than it has to go. And it should spring back to be flat. I have to sand the bottom a little bit anyway to deburr these holes, so no problem. So something like this, you could have nickel plated or chrome plated, you could have it powder coated. You can also blacken brass with a literally brass black solution that you buy at gun shops and stuff. But for me, I'm just going to put car wax on it and buff it up, and that'll actually stay shiny for quite a long time. If you're the sort of player who rests your arm or the palm of your hand on the bridge, then you probably want a more robust coating or plating for that matter. But this is ready to assemble and install. Well, I guess that's the bridge all sorted out. If you just stumbled across this video, please give us a like and hit subscribe, because I'm making a whole series of videos working on this orange Berocca coloured base, doing all sorts of setup and mod work on her. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.